suffers.
Yeah, I was surprised about my allergies popping up.
So we are now streaming live, so I suppose I shouldn't say anything untoward. Be careful. What university are you with? I didn't read everybody's bios, or actually it was quite a long list, and so I'm sure I read it, but I don't recall it right now.
So I work for the Department of Defense, but I'm a doctoral student also at University of I'm about to say Iowa, University of Illinois.
Oh, University of Illinois. Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay. Which is that? Where's that located? Is it what
Urbana.
city is that in? Urbana. Yeah. Right. Great campuses. I love those great. You know, as I've been doing online education for a pretty long time now, and but I grew up. My parents were academics, so I grew up on campuses. It was my playground, you know, and
Right.
and so I have a personal. It put me on a campus, and I'm at home. I'm just I'm happy, and all those smiling student faces, and it's great stuff. I miss the big. I graduated from the University of Missouri, so we're neighbors, you know.
Yeah.
And another red brick campus there.
Yeah, it's
But
a beautiful campus.
they're having a hard time right now. Everybody's having a hard time right now.
They came up with a phenomenal COVID
All those
testing
smiling
strategy.
student faces, and it's great stuff. Oh, are you hearing that? I'm hearing that.
Yeah.
Must be. It's not you. Microphone. I was teaching a class online. It was an MBA level class. I had about 20 students in there, and the model they were using was a talking head model, right? So I had 20 students, and I was trying to engage them, and I was talking. You know how to you just kind of have to, you know, try to infotainment, and I kept hearing this an argument in the background, and someone had left their mic on. And there was a domestic dispute, and couldn't get them to turn their mic off. You know,
Crazy.
like now.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of that with the, I guess, the invasion of Zoom into our lives.
Yes, yes. My son's attending a graduate virtual academy. He's 13. And so he's sitting at a computer all day long, like this, you know, with all these kids' heads and disembodied heads, you know, and it's tough. It's tough.
Read an article not too long ago titled "What Would Paulo Freire Think of Blackboard?" And I think it was particularly apropos to our reality right now.
Just a second, I'll fix it. I need just to get into select speaker. Yeah, now I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear Hamad.
Yes, this is Hamad. Yeah.
Hamad, yes.
I'll be back in a few minutes. Just, I think we still have 14 minutes. Isn't it?
Yeah, we do. Where are you located, Hamad?
I am in Abu Dhabi.
Abu Dhabi, okay. My college is in Westford, is in Sharjah.
Oh,
So not too far. I've been to Abu Dhabi several times, in fact. It's hot.
And now it's getting, it's improving.
Better. It's getting better. Yeah, sure.
I think until March it will be fine, but then after March comes the real one for us.
Yeah,
Because you
sure.
get used to it. That's where it is. Okay, I'll be back just in a few minutes. Yeah.
Okie doke.
Thank you.
We got a lot of ground to cover this morning, it seems.
It's an ambitious agenda, I thought.
Yeah, I read the questions and I was like, wow, these are definitely ambitious.
Everyone, good morning.
Good morning.
Hi. Hi, Anthony.
Saurabh?
Hi, William. Hi, how are you? You guys look pretty fresh here.
I just woke up. I'm having my tea.
Good morning.
Where are you located?
Yeah, we're based out of San Francisco, but currently I'm in
Oh.
India. Yeah,
Oh,
so
okay.
it's morning for you. I think both of us probably are having a tea. It's just that it's your morning tea and mine is evening.
Is your evening tea? Sure. Yeah. What part of India are you in?
Currently I'm in Bangalore.
Oh, Bangalore. Okay. All right. Yep.
Also the host, so let me just allow a couple of people in. You know the Zoom thing? It's part of the entire exercise that we do the whole day.
Yeah. When you go to, it's really funny to compare the two, because when you go to a face-to-face meeting, no one says, "Can you hear me?" Or
Just say it.
nor do they say-
Absolutely. Probably exactly. So true.
Yeah, seance. That's right.
Are you with us, Mark? Can you hear us?
Who has joined? Hi, Dr. Perez.
Greetings, everyone.
Greetings, everyone. Greetings. Hi, Dr. Sohag. Greetings.
So I am in New Jersey, very near New
Oh, wow.
York City, right on the Hudson River. So it is
One.
opportune time. It's 7:50 a.m. for me, so just a normal day. But I know some of you guys are on other parts of the globe, so it may not be as convenient. But we're all here. That's the most important thing.
Absolutely. That's what. Here's someone, I guess.
This is the
Mr.
new
Coleman,
norm.
where are you located?
I am currently in Melbourne, Australia.
Oh,
So
right.
Hi,
it's,
Thomas.
just coming up on 10 o'clock in the evening for me.
Antipodean. Yeah.
Indeed.
Pleasure to have all of you. World Assessment Council really is excited about this conversation. In fact, Anthony and William were saying that we have a lot of things to cover, a really highly ambitious agenda. But yes, we'll try to get as much perspective as possible on a couple of things. We'll try to have more insights from everyone. For everyone's information, we already have gone live. I mute you, Dr. Swat. We have already gone live, but we will actually officially begin this dialogue in next 10 minutes, 8 a.m. Eastern time.
I
Meanwhile,
hope
we
you can
can.
hear me now again.
Yep, we can
Oh,
hear
you
you
look
fine.
wonderful.
By the way, you can add your city to your name. If you click on your name, you can rename it.
Oh, that's a good idea.
That will be
That's a
nice.
great idea. Absolutely. Let's
I
do that.
didn't
It's a wonderful idea.
rename. Good. Yeah. Nice. Thank you. I'm just going to put Iowa. The porcine state.
Hi, good evening.
Good
Good
evening.
evening, Dr. Sohag. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. Nice meeting you all.
Where are you located?
It's Delhi NCR, Gurgaon.
Where?
It's Haryana, in case you had been to Gurgaon area. So the university is in Gurgaon.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
around 45 kilometers from International Airport.
Nice. That's convenient.
Right. The capital of India, New Delhi.
Yeah,
New Delhi. Okay.
yeah, New Delhi, yes.
My father used to travel to India in the 80s as a missionary. He was
Oh.
he did that for about a decade. I can't tell you how many really neat things he brought back for me when I was a kid.
Oh, some great memories there.
Yeah, really was.
I was there one time visiting for a graduation. Amazing culture, just breathtakingly deep culture. But there's a lot of people there.
Mm-hmm.
It's a huge continent. I mean, it's to say you're from India, that actually kind of is meaningless. I mean, it has meaning, obviously, but I mean, where? I mean, are you from Chennai? Are you from Kerala? Are you from? I mean, this and the cultures are very different in each of those areas. Very
Right.
different.
It's a country. I'm sure you have been to Abu Dhabi, all of you, or Dubai.
Yes, I love Dubai and Abu Dhabi. I love that area. They're great. Wonderful people, friendly, very diverse culture. You walk down the street, and you're going to see just everything. You know, it's just going to see everything.
Yeah.
And my favorite part, which if I stood up, you would know immediately, is the food. Because there's so much great food from all different kinds of cultures, right? I mean, I usually avoid the British parts, but because they don't have any good food. But sorry, Thomas.
Hey, you only have to take a walk down a British high street to see that. It's Italian, Chinese, Indian, like Japanese, you name it, and then there's like a little English pub on the end.
Yeah, right, exactly. Maybe a gastro pub if you're lucky. I lived in Manchester for several years, and I lived on the end of the Curry Mile. So, I mean, it was wonderful. I didn't know anything about curries, you know, and of course, it's kind of a curry is kind of a British invention, really. And but boy, I tell you, there was some amazing things to eat. And that I went in one shop. First time I was like, I want that. Then I came home with like bags of stuff, and we laid it out on the table and explored it, you know, to see what it was. It was really, really amazing. And when I was in India, never ate meat. They never had any meat. I didn't even notice it. It never occurred to me. And on the way back, my colleague said, I can't wait to get home. I can have some meat. I'm like, oh, I guess we didn't eat any meat there because the food is so flavorful. It's extraordinary, really extraordinary.
An object lesson, because they say we're going to have to eat a lot less meat in the future. You know, they say that's the way it's going to have to go. So we can all take some lessons from that.
Yeah.
Welcome, Dr. Sancheri. Welcome to Educators this week.
Hello, good evening, everyone.
Evening.
Very nice to meet you all.
Good evening, sir.
I guess we have almost everyone. I think we're missing, let me see who we are missing actually. Dr. Scott Dolan, are you here? I guess not. No worries. Dr. Pindri is here, Dr. Perez, Dr. Subab,
Yep.
Dr. Alam Arshan. Do we have Dr. Alam Arshan? I think we still have good 5 minutes to go before we officially go live. We're actually live already, but we officially go live.
Gavin, where are you from?
William, I'm in Ireland, northwest of
Ireland.
Sligo.
Oh, all right. Been to Dublin once.
Okay.
Only place in the world I've ever had a cab driver sing to me all the way to my destination. He said, you know, we all sing here. I said, well, I didn't want to be stereotypical, right? So I said, oh, really? I didn't know that all Irish people sing. And
We don't
he goes,
know.
yeah. And he just, no, I know. And he just, because he knew I was American, right?
Yeah.
So he opens up and he sings all the way to the destination. I thought, well, this is really, this is unique.
Did he sing well?
He did okay. Yeah, he did. I went into a pub in Dublin and it was just classic. It was just like what you I'm like, really? This is there were people in the corner playing instruments and having a
Yeah.
big time, and it was crowded and it was bustling and it was wonderful. It was just
Yeah.
really wonderful.
Yeah, the traditional music is alive and well. Yeah, absolutely.
I've been a Pogues fan for decades.
Yeah. Yeah, McGowan's a great songwriter. Brilliant
He
songwriter.
is. He is. He's got everything, even the tragedy.
Yeah, I think of the tragedy. Yeah. And where are you? Oh, you're in Iowa.
I'm in Iowa. Yes. As I was telling Anthony, where we have more pigs than people.
Yeah.
Yes, somebody make a recommendation to rename our names on our sheets here, so to include location, so that way we're easily identifiable. Right click, rename.
Jersey.
Might be a good idea.
Yeah, sure. Anthony, probably you might do that. Hi, Dr. Mushan, welcome here. This is Saurabh Gupta. Okay, how do I pronounce it? Is it like Allah Mushan?
Oh, you're muted. Yes.
Alamashan, yes. This is how we pronounce it correctly.
Great. I think we have everyone. So
I can see you're calling in from the department, Allah.
Yep, I am from the department. Yeah.
The distinctive ceilings of Brunel.
Yeah, the brutality, or whatever they call it, industrial brutality.
welcome, Nisita. Welcome, Nisita. Welcome to Educators this week from World Assessment Council. I think you're muted.
I had some connection problem just now.
I think, yeah, we can hear you.
Yep, we got you now.
Ms. Isa is from Malaysia.
Yeah.
Yeah, just for everybody's convenience, so that we understand who we are talking to and which country we're talking to. If you could just put Malaysia at the end, it will be easy for all of us to understand everybody's origin or current location, rather.
Thank you very much, everyone. Hi, everyone. I'm from University Malaysia of Computer Science and Engineering in Cyberjaya, Selangor. And I've been with the higher education industry for the last 36 years. I was before with a public university in up north of Malaysia. In Penang is called University Science Malaysia. But I've been with the private universities for the last 10 years. So I have the experience of public and private universities, administration. I'm currently the registrar for UNIMI. The acronym for my university is called UNIMI, University Malaysia.
Welcome.
Nice to meet
I think
nice to meet you too.
We have hit 8 a.m. Eastern time. We can begin with the show. Welcome everyone to Educators. This is official now. This is official. So welcome everyone to Educators this week. This is Saurabh Gupta. I'm the Director of Partnerships and Innovation at the World Assessment Council. At World Assessment Council, we celebrate digital. And when we say we celebrate digital, we basically help universities and we take the message of going digital, going online across the world. Today, we are connected with more than 10,000 universities and schools across the US, even Europe, UK as well, India, Malaysia, Singapore, Australia, Middle East. And there are people like, a lot of people who are like global digital ambassadors, who take the message, who are like digital evangelists, who take the message of going digital across universities. So we spread the message, we educate, we empower them with technology, with our partners, and we also help them with the entire digital transformation. Educators this week, the show that we are on currently, is an effort to establish that dialogue. The dialogue where educators, eminent educators like you can come together and we can have a dialogue around the trends which are happening around digital, how we have adopted digital. Now, fortunately or unfortunately, COVID has really pushed digital. I'm like, somebody was saying that, of course, Zoom is such an integral part of the entire thing. Today, people are accessible thanks to that as well, because now it has really become a flat world. We have participants in more than 6 countries just in this present show, which is a wonderful thing. I think the push to adopt digital has suddenly gone manyfold. When we and all those passionate educators and we at World Assessment Council, with so many bodies who've been talking about online, because unfortunately, universities and our education ecosystem has been the biggest consumer of paper. Whether you talk about the MITs or the Stanfords or the Oxfords or the IITs or the top institutions of the world, all of us have been consuming paper. COVID probably has given us a time, an opportunity to reflect on that. And I think everyone has really adopted well, and probably will listen to everyone here how universities, schools, and education system in general has adopted digital. So probably we'll talk about that. Today's topic is how real are virtual examination centers. I'm like, even if we have not established an actual virtual examination center, because and we'll talk about the pieces which are part of the virtual examination center, I think everybody has tried their hands on, because everybody has to. The education cannot stop, right? So everybody has really tried everything, whether it's like the free Google Classrooms or Microsoft Teams or Zoom or anything else, probably the Moodles and LMS. We have been using that for synchronous or asynchronous learning, and education has stopped, and online learning has always been live, has always been online, as we say. But unfortunately, most of the universities and schools have really struggled, and we did a survey with probably more than 1,000 universities and schools, more than 9,000 educators recently. And 80%, more than 80%, to be precise, 82.5% people said that yes, we did face a lot of challenges when it came to exams. Because how we define exams and assessments is, we understand that the sanctity of the exam should not be compromised. It's not just about delivering the whole piece. It's also about ensuring that there is no impersonation, it is served well, it works on different devices. There are people across various countries. In fact, there are certain countries where internet bandwidth is a challenge. So how do we address that? So today we're going to discuss more on that. Probably there are a couple of things that we have on the agenda. We're going to discuss more on that. But before I do that, it's good that Ms. Isa actually introduce herself. Let's take 30 seconds, everyone, to introduce herself, so that all our guests. We're not only live on YouTube, this is also streamed live on a lot of private channels across universities. So there are a lot of people around the world who are actually observing this, and they really want to learn from all the insights that we have today and all the outcomes that will come out of this conversation. So let's start with Anthony. Just introduce yourself, and then we'll take the next question.
All right. Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. My name is Anthony Clemens. I'm a researcher at the University of Illinois, a doctoral researcher, and I'm also a faculty educator with the Department of Defense in Kentucky. I've been educating faculty for colleges and universities how to teach for the last 2 years. And my research predominantly focuses around the role of e-learning in higher education with a particular focus on virtual reality and artificial intelligence and kind of the futuristic ideas that potential holds. I'm happy to be here. I'll go ahead and turn it over to the next person.
Speak yourself. Dr. Painter, why did you go next?
Okay, I guess I'm next in line, right? So my name is Dr. William Painter. I'm a dean for the Westford Education Group. We have 9 schools. We have three institutions based in Sharjah, where I always say Dubai because nobody knows where Sharjah is, except Hamad. He knows where it is. And professionally, I built the first online MBA in Europe 20 years ago out of a Grande École in the south. the French said to me, "Oh, the internet will never come to France because we have Minitel." So I've been fighting the waves, and nobody in this room knows what Minitel is, right? So it shows you how forward-looking the French can be. Westford Education Group has been teaching online for about 10 years. So this is not a new, the challenges that we're facing, we're not facing anything new other than increased enrollments because students are moving out of campuses that are closed and are picking up ours. So I think I have a long history in online education. Some of these questions are very tantalizing questions regarding the role of assessments. And I'm looking forward to this discussion. So I'll pass the mic, pass the candle over to Thomas Coleman in Melbourne.
Hi there. Oh, thank you very much for that delightful handover. My name is Thomas Coleman. I'm currently in Melbourne, but I work for Brunel University in London. I'm just misplaced by half a globe for the moment, which normally you might think would be more of a problem, but thanks to this online content delivery in the new world we live in, hopefully less so. Anyway. I'm an associate lecturer at Brunel University London. My research interests in particular cover new ways of delivering educational content using new technologies. Particularly, I have interests in large-scale deployment of games and the way we can tie games into both education and assessment. I'm also part of the team at Brunel that is working on remote content delivery support for this upcoming year, which no doubt will be relevant. With that in mind, I will pass on to whoever's next on the list.
Let's have Mushan.
Okay, thank you very much. Coleman, thank you very much, everyone who speaks. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. My name is, I am Dr. Alam Mushan. I am a lecturer and researcher at Brunel University at the Computer Science Department, Brunel University, London. My interest basically, or my research interest basically focus on using intelligent data analysis in any capacity, for example, machine learning or deep learning and this sort of research fields to discover and extract valuable information from data. However, at the same time, I teach at two places. I teach at Brunel University and I teach another place called London Business International Center. And this online delivery is, to be honest, it's challenging for this, at least what I find it challenging for me, for us educators and for the students at the same time. And considering the topic today is about online exam, hopefully I would be able to provide some ideas and get some answer for questions that I have particularly, to be honest. I'm looking for answers, not only to provide answers. And that's basically why I'm here today. Thank you very much. And
next, Dr. Perez.
Yes, greetings. My name is Gonzalo Perez, and I am in the New Jersey, New York area. I am the Dean for Innovation and Online Learning at a college called Mercer College, which is near Princeton, New Jersey. And you can imagine my role has stepped up significantly during the COVID pandemic as we shift everything remote. So it's been pretty tantalizing, but it's been quite a refreshing exercise to figure out how to best move the college forward in a remote environment. Professionally, I earned my doctorate from Pace University in New York with a particular focus on behavioral biometrics in order to ensure academic integrity for online courses. So my focus was in keystroke biometrics, right? We can basically draw a data map regarding your behavior and how you type. And my focus in that research was there's variations in how we type due to mood, due to urgency, due to different scenarios. So I captured different scenarios and still was able to find consistent data points across the board to ensure that that student who said they were who they were we were able to validate that through the keystroke analysis. So it's interesting how that research in 2015 is coming kind of to the forefront now as we use some of these online proctoring solutions. And those online proctoring solutions use various levels, use passwords, use face recognition, which are physiological biometrics. But the next level, which I was able to push forward in 2015, is to look at behavior and use behavior as an additional layer of security. So I'm excited to be here and to learn, but also to contribute with my research and to help all of us create a better online learning environment, pandemic and post-pandemic. Thank you.
Wonderful. That's very, very interesting. In fact, we should definitely have a conversation around biometrics and online proctoring. Probably that's one of the topics that we'll touch today. Next, Dr. Suhag, we'd love to hear from you a little bit.
Yeah, thank you. I'm Dr. Vandana Suhag. Presently, I am Dean Education Quality in BML Munjal University, Gurugram, that is in Delhi, NCR, near capital of India. Having served for more than 24 years in academics as well as administrative positions at various levels at Manipal Group as well as in BML Munjal University, Gurugram. In Manipal Group, I was actively involved in raising Sikkim Manipal University that was established in 1997, where I had then come out from that university after serving as registrar, then joined Manipal University, Jaipur, served there as registrar. So I have undertaken various administrative as well as academic responsibilities, including registrars of 2 universities, which I have just named. And in case I talk about my experience, I am very well versed about the challenges which higher education institutions are facing and which they have faced in the past as well. With my experience, deal with regulatory bodies, dealt with them earlier also with various type of recognition certifications and ensuring compliances. As Dean Education Quality, my main role is preparing the university to participate in various kind of rankings, accreditations, planning and finalization for national as well as international collaborations, facilitating industry, academia, tie-ups, which you say corporate relationship, improving education and quality in education, strengthening the relationship, basically we can say, and out of pandemic also, which we talk about, since last so many months we had been talking, but I must say one good point which pandemic has taught us is to bring the world together. So all the higher educations, we are together and we are fighting against that, and the things which we were thinking will be done in the future, we have now within a very short span of time, we have implemented those things. So thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to be here with the panel. Thank you.
Kevin, quickly.
Thank you, Saurav. Gavin Clinch, I'm head of online learning for student experience at the Institute of Technology in Sligo in Ireland. We have a Centre for Online Learning, which we established 7 years ago. And we have about 4,500 online students. Most of our programs are very much tailored to the needs of industry. So we're very experienced in terms of those lifelong learners who are in the workplace and studying online. I introduced online exams back in 2014 when we had a construction management program with students across the world in Australia, Canada. I think we're at about 7 different time zones and people in remote places. So the online exams were certainly very new to Ireland at that time. But there are challenges. There are certainly are challenges in terms of authenticating the learner. But I think, so you mentioned at the start about this opportunity to reflect through the pandemic. And I think our reflection really should be on the authenticity of exams and having more authentic assessment. That's for me, the primary concern over the technology that we might use for it. Thank you.
Absolutely. And we could definitely talk about that today. Dr. Hamal.
Thank you. Hamad Udavi, I'm the director of Al Ain and Dubai campuses in Abu Dhabi University. As you know, Abu Dhabi University is the largest private university in the United Arab Emirates. We have around 7,500 students Here in UAE, this is a big number. In other places, maybe it's small. I'm being involved with e-learning for around now 20 years, mostly in leading projects to develop curriculum and introduce e-learning related professional development, bringing technologies and education technology practices and getting faculty to work together to move the project. The pandemic for sure teaches us all so many things. The many things we've been doing in the past, but we did not do it at the scale that we need to do. So when we moved to have fully distance learning, it was a challenge in terms of making sure the technology is ready, making sure faculty are prepared, making sure the practices, the assessment, the integrity of the assessment, and student also prepared to take that one. We learn a lot from that one. I would like to we'll share it with you later when we come to that. Thank you.
Dr. Suncheri, thank you so much, Dr. Ahmad. Dr. Suncheri, pleasure to hear from you.
Yeah. Hello. Greetings everyone. I'm Sandeep Sancheti, Vice Chancellor of Yeah. Hello. Greetings everyone. I'm Sandeep Sancheti, RM Institute of Science and Technology from India. This also happens to be one of the largest standalone university of the country. It's a self-financed university. Has almost all the domains of education, possibly except for the veterinary sciences. I was also the president of Association of Indian Universities, which represents around 800 universities. We have close to 1,000 universities already established in India. And India is a very diverse country, and therefore any new experiment, either technology or otherwise, will generally have some difficulties. But fortunately, things are not that bad right now. And I'm a technologist, I'm an electronics engineer, and I love it. And therefore, I would say that COVID has helped us embrace technology in education in a big way. We were a bit reluctant in India, or maybe outside also, we were a bit reluctant to adopt that, but that has happened fairly comfortably, I would say. The only challenge which we seem to have sometimes is about the devices, or maybe sometimes about the connectivity, because as a country, we are very large, lots of rural folks in rural areas where things are not adequate or sufficient to support them. But for that, I would possibly say that we have been fairly successful in maintaining the status quo. Our university also got engaged into distance education, which are highly regulated in India, by the way, and therefore licensing and approvals are required. And from this year, we were raring to go for the online education. Unfortunately, both are merging also. So we had some sort of readiness when it came to the experience, and we had done certain things internally also for such a large population, and therefore we were ready. It didn't come as come to us as a shock, and we have been able to deal with anything or everything as far as the teaching, learning, or examinations are concerned. The real challenge in online remains to be the skilling or hands-on or the laboratory part, which we are still trying to sort out. But the good thing about what we are talking today in terms of how real the virtual exams are, I would say that for me, it's very close to real. And technology can go to any extent in terms of scaling it up or raising the bar, whereas for us as individuals to raise that bar every time possibly cannot be done. And therefore, technology is of a great deal help, and obviously it also helps us with many other features, which probably we'll discuss later as Saurabh will take us through that. So thank you, Mr. Gupta. Thank you, World Assessment Council, for this invitation. Great to learn from others' experience also. I'll be ready for later part. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of interesting conversation with you. Dr. Scott Dillon.
Yes, thanks so much. My name is Scott Dolan. I'm the Dean of Graduate Studies at Excelsior College, headquartered in Albany, New York. Excelsior is one of the oldest nonprofit distance education providers in the United States. We were founded in 1971. Today, we have over 20,000 students at the associate's, bachelor's, and master's level. And we serve predominantly working adults, a high percentage of active military and veteran students as well. And we're known for our liberal acceptance of transfer credit, our expertise in prior learning assessment, and our long history in delivering online education. I started my career at Excelsior in an assessment and program evaluation position. And I think much like Gavin, assessment online, using online exams, what's the most important is the fit of the assessment to the learning objective. And the modality is just a way in which you deliver it. And there are limits and advantages of various modalities. And I think, there are a lot of opportunities to use online education and assessment to reach students that we haven't been able to reach before. Our commitment at Excelsior is to increase access and affordability, and in a world where people are working, in a world where degree completion is still a challenge. Online provides a lot of flexibility and convenience for our learners and our students, and enables them to tap into career opportunities. So we can do that both through the pedagogy and through the assessment. So looking forward to learning from all of you as well, and to the conversation.
Thank you so much. Am I missing anyone? I think everybody introduced themselves pretty well. Okay, wonderful. So how we're going to go ahead with this conversation is, I have 5 or 6 questions around which the entire conversation today is going to be answered. And if there is any question, so what I'll do is I have brief understanding about everybody here. So I might go to somebody specific for a response from the person. But if anybody has a valued insight or a valued question, please raise your hand, and we can have your point of view as well at that point in time, and we can have a more fruitful conversation on that particular topic. So to begin with, we all understand, and that's the first part of the whole conversation today, we all understand that because of COVID and the pandemic, we all have decided suddenly that it's sort of imperative now for every university and school to go online. Conducting classes have not been a challenge, as we discussed. Conducting examinations has been a challenge, because when you talk about examinations, most of the universities and schools have been using free tools. And when we talk about free tools like Google Classroom, or we talk about certain LMSs or Moodle, most of them help you with just delivering multiple choice questions, which is like an objective part of the examination. Of course, we'll talk about the formative assessments, diagnostic assessments, or summative assessments. That's a different story altogether. But what we have been able to deliver until now is mainly and majorly multiple choice questions. One of the biggest challenge for most of the universities and schools has been, how do we implement long answer questions? How do we implement essay type answers? How do we implement, in fact, Dr. Gavin also talked about online software. That's also one of the major challenges. How do we implement that? So I think all of us, with your experience, with your set of schools, universities, and the ecosystem that you have been exposed to, we would like to know what are the challenges, and then we'll come to the advantages of it. What do you think are the challenges that have been preventing universities and schools to go 100% online, even beyond the pandemic? Once the pandemic is over, what will stop us to stay online, have our examinations online? I'll start with Dr. Pinto.
Pick on the poor boy from Iowa first. I
thought you had some insight there. Yeah, go ahead, sir.
Did I look insightful? I'd like to put this in a bit of a context.
Look at the book.
I'd like to put this in a bit of a context. When print first came out, printed books, when it first came out in the 16th century, 1525 or so, you know what they did? They made books look like handwritten books. So they had the printing press, but they made them look like handwritten books. So they're called incunabula. Not that that's important or not, but they attempted to mimic what had been something like 1,000 years of handwritten text. And it was only later that they were able to put actual movable type in and really take full advantage of the printing press. And we all know the impact of the printing press. I look at in this room and I got books, and there's books there. We got books everywhere. We are swimming and the results of the printing press. And when I look at universities when they do online education, what I see is, well, we're going to do it just like a classroom. We're going to make incunabula. We're going to make it look just like it was in the University of Paris 1,000 years ago. We're going to have a lecturer, which is actually a reader of a text, and we're going to have students sitting in tables, chairs, taking notes, none of which happens in the real world. I mean, in the working environment. And so we approach this question of assessments, and we say, well, how can universities respond? And I really think that the COVID has forced, like a goose making foie gras. They've stuck that funnel down the university's throat, and they're force feeding technology to universities. Some of us have had good experience with it, but I don't think we've even come close to leveraging the power of IT and technology and reimagining the classroom. I heard Thomas Coleman talking about the impact of gaming on assessment and on teaching. And, and he'll talk about that, I'm sure, much with greater expertise than I could ever address it. But I think the questions such as blockchain technology, I hate to even say it because I don't really fully understand it, but I've been reading several papers about it, and we're about to implement blockchain technology in Westford in order to, and that changes the relationship between the student and the professor and the certification of the institution. Universities are awarding bodies. They award degrees. They say, yes, you, William Painter, have earned a degree, and here it is, and it's got our stamp, and it's got all kinds of bells and whistles on it, and it looks like something people would believe in. Well, we don't need that. Blockchain technology allows for the absolute certainty of a certification of a person's skills, and I'm not sure that it requires the university to be in that process. And once again, I'm speaking a little bit out of the back of my head because I am not a blockchain expert by any. I'm hoping some of the other more intelligent folks here can add to that. But I think that we have, in institutions, we have not really grasped and understood how to leverage technology to fully reach our mission, which is to teach people skills and concepts so that they can contribute to their local communities. And I think now we got a lot of people in the pool. I mean, everybody's jumping in the pool, and that's a good thing because that means we have a lot of really good brains thinking about how to do online education. Now, is that an insight, sir? I'm not sure that's an insight. Sounds more like a prattling on.
No, absolutely. I think the biggest insight which comes out of this conversation is, like you said, just because more and more people are doing it, which means more and more people are failing at it or succeeding at it, which means we have more insights, we have more successful case stories of failures. And I think, that definitely helps a lot of other people. So I think with that note, let's have insights from Thomas, because you have been implementing that in your university, and you have really done a couple of research there as well. And I'll come to Dr. Perez after that. So Thomas, what are your views on this?
Thank you.
Sorry. Oh.
Is that me or should be, or yeah. It should be me. Thomas, yeah.
So you want to go ahead? Please go ahead. So please go ahead.
No, Thomas. Sorry. No, it's Thomas. Sorry for that.
All right.
I'll come to you after this.
Yeah. Thanks very much. So, yeah. For a start, I want to say I agree with quite a lot of what William was saying there. I think the pandemic has pushed online assessment onto us all very fast, and that's in some ways great. Necessity is the mother of invention, after all. The fact that we are in need, that we need these solutions now, will mean that there are more people thinking about them. There's more money available for research, hopefully, and more openness towards embracing some of these ideas. But I really would like to echo in particular that what we are currently doing in so many places, and Brunel has in computing at least, we've actually been delivering online exams for quite a while. but in exactly the format that William talks about. We've been giving multiple choice questions. We've even been giving some long form questions, which are submitted electronically and assessed through Urkund, Turnitin, etc., the similar systems. But what we really should be thinking about for the future is not how can we best emulate what we had to settle for because it was what we could get to work in paper. It's how we can embrace this technology and take it forwards. There's plenty of research out there that shows that the best ways we can get, the best ways to assess students are the same ways that students learn, the same ways that students pick up the information and repeat it, is the best way to get them to repeat it so we can get a full assessment of what they understand. And if we're taking assessment online, we're taking learning online, why aren't we taking advantage of these things? There's also plenty of understanding around that shows that ideas like active learning, like simulations to bring people into a real world context, to have students exploring and doing things actively and being participants in their learning, not just recipients of their learning, which these aren't new terms. These are things that I was hearing when I was learning how to teach. And I am certain that some members of this panel who have even more experience than me were hearing when they were learning to teach. But technology allows us to put that in, will allow us to put that into practice. And if we think outside the box, if we take advantage of the situation we're in, things like simulation through games is a hobby horse of mine, but it's not necessarily the only way. We can teach people through that. We can also assess people through that. We can provide interactive assessments that don't just say, write down what you know about this topic. They put a student in a situation and ask them to solve it, and we can see how they do that. We can see the solutions they come up with and how they engage with and interact with them. But it requires thinking about a new paradigm, not just of assessment, but of delivery and of integrating those two things.
Wonderful. But before I go to Dr. Perez, Thomas, I would like to know, like, what exactly, because I was in conversation with a couple of people from Australia, and I was also speaking to one of the rectors. What I feel is like there is still a little resistance across universities to completely go online. A lot of them are still sort of in a wait and watch mode, wherein they feel that probably, and they're very hopeful of this, that post-pandemic, probably next 6 months to one year's time, we can just be hopeful of this. We might go back to the entire traditional brick and mortar model. What do you think? What exactly is holding Australian universities back from going online?
Yeah, I think multiple things, but there are maybe 2 or 3 that are more important. First one, faculty always looking at equivalent learning.
Dr. Hamad.
Do you hear me?
Dr. Hamad?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I had one last question from Thomas. And I was
sorry, I'm just confused. I'm not hearing it clearly.
Am I audible to you? Am I audible to you?
You're clear, audible to you, you're cutting off a little bit. I'm not hearing you clearly. Sorry for that.
Okay, sir. We'll try to slow. Thomas, quickly.
Okay, so I think there is a very natural resistance to change. I think that's in some ways a human trait, that there is a natural resistance to change, particularly dramatic change like has been forced upon us. And it's in some ways very natural for people in positions of responsibility to sit there and say, why don't we wait and see how other people do it? See if other people get it right, and then we can take that. Because after all, we hear about the people who are the successors at the start, but the people who go screaming into something and screaming out the sky, they don't tend to come out so well. So I think there's resistance to it in that way. What I will say is, I think Pandora's box is open now on remote teaching, on remote assessment, on remote learning. And I think the institutions that are embracing, innovating, and going forwards now will stand to be in a much, much better position, because already universities across Europe, across the Americas, across Asia, across Australia, and many of the good universities have, or many universities in general, have students from around the world. And those students, many of them have gone, teaching is being done remotely, I'm going to stay at home. And the people the year later, the people 2 years later, they may be sitting there looking at that and saying, I couldn't afford to go and study in America. I couldn't afford to go and study in the United Kingdom. I can afford the university fees though. I could afford to stay here and study at that university. And the universities that do embrace online teaching, online assessment, and are able to offer remote courses, I think may stand to reap some huge benefits in future.
True. I guess I think this probably summarizes with what every university around the world, a lot of them would have the first mover advantage as well, those who have been a little visionary. A lot of them are definitely going to observe others, and probably a lot of them will implement when most of them has implemented. So we have those three categories of universities. So Dr. Hamad, finally, I'm coming to you. What do you think are the challenges, Dr. Hamad? Thanks, Thomas there. What do you think are the challenges, Dr. Hamad, across UAE, and how have UAE universities, and particularly your university, Abu Dhabi University, how have you responded to it?
Sorry, again, I'm hearing sometimes almost like Hamad. I don't know how that, but now it's clear.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I think in UAE,
sure.
Yeah, you hear me clearly? Hope you hear me clearly.
Yes, absolutely.
Good. Okay. Very
absolutely
good. Okay, so the challenges we're facing is similar to any other place in other universities. I think in terms of technology and readiness of the universities by having infrastructure and learning management system, those things are not really the issue at all out here. The main challenge always, I think, is getting faculty to think differently, as William said, moving away from just replicating the classroom experience in e-learning. That's one main challenge. The other thing, this generation looking for a different learning experience. They are all on the gaming, they are always online, they already collaborating and doing so many activities, and faculty still a little bit thinking behind that. Many of the faculty has made the transitions, and we find the solution to that is working with the faculty professional development, sharing best practices, and giving them examples of different pedagogy and other teaching methods. And many of them made really huge change. And these started changing also the faculty around them and helping them. So things moved very well. With the pandemic, I think we started with the student satisfaction around 60% of e-learning. And when we repeated that after 6 weeks, it's moved up to 70. And we did it after 12 weeks, it became 80, which is really amazing that the students now accepting it, and because it became part of the learning experience. The assessment is one of the biggest challenges, and especially the assessment of the practical components. The other theoretical, I think the essay and writing, this is not an issue because the learning management systems not limited to MCQ. For example, Blackboard has 17 types of assessment. And there are tools like Turnitin, like tools like H5P that even can grade a written assessment with a limitation in place. So the technology is there, but the challenge how to ensure the integrity, how to ensure the assessment is really the right assessment that measure the learning outcome. And here we started looking at way to do that. Presentation became important, video presentation became important, interview of students became part of the work, and using tools like Respondent's lockdown browser and Respondent's proctoring or monitoring system that are using a camera and doing all those artificial intelligence reporting of the student behavior during the assessment, it became one of it. Again, came with the challenges. Students are not accepting it. We have a culture here where the female has their own special situation, and they cannot turn on the camera in the house when the family and kids are around. So that again became sort of a challenge. I think we're making good progress. We learned a lot, but the challenges, biggest challenge is the assessment and the mindset change to move into different way to teach and assist.
True, absolutely true. Mindset change is one of the biggest challenges that most of the universities and schools have faced, not only just for the students, but also for the faculty. And of course, there's been a lot of training which has been happening. World Assessment Council, we have also implemented modules of training and helped probably more than 10,000 educators, train them on how to go online with the free tools and all the other amazing tools, like some of the technology that we just spoke about. Of course, there are a lot of technology, which is available to make your examination secure. Online proctoring, there's a lot of AI which is being used there. A lot of AR is also being used there. And there have been scenarios which have been created to ensure that students, wherever they are in the world, can actually take the exams more securely. So of course, yes, mindset change is definitely one of the biggest things here. Moving from UAE to US now, Dr. Perez.
Yes.
You have been talking about biometrics and online proctoring and all of that. What do you think has been happening in US? What are universities and schools and how are they responding to it?
So yeah, thanks for the question. And I thought about this for many months, and I believe that we have to work with faculty to help them to break down it into a process. I'm a very systemic person by nature, right? We have low stakes tests. Low stakes tests can be weekly quizzes that just monitor the pulse of student learning throughout the semester. We have mid-stakes tests which can be an essay that's written, but you want it to be vetted through the testing center where you have folks who can review those papers. You can have a writing center that can review those documents, and then the student can then submit a document that has been vetted through the writing center. Then, of course, you have a high stakes test, which a lot of the nursing faculty or other allied health faculty would consider to use a proctoring solution, as Dr. Hamad mentioned. And I've come into a lot of resistance with using the various online proctoring tools because of what Dr. Hamad mentioned, which are privacy issues, cultural differences, privacy concerns. And we've been having to work with how to find the best ways to ensure academic integrity, but also provide the options and not just say this is the only tool for that specific high stakes test. So these are some of the challenges. And of course, the other challenge is cost, right? Because we asked faculty before the semester begin, do you plan to use online proctoring? And if so, how many students do you plan to use that tool? And we'll get astronomical numbers. When we crunch the numbers, it's $60,000, $70,000, $80,000, $90,000 per academic year that we never had to budget before because we had alternate methods to assess students. So cost has definitely been something that we have been blindsided by, if you will, during the pandemic as more and more remote and online tools are being leveraged. As right now, my institution is at 92% of our classes are online, 8% are face-to-face, but that's just the lab components for chemistry and biologies and the sciences. But many faculty are now, what they're doing is for the high stakes tests, if they're not comfortable with an online tool, they will then use a lab as a test proctoring face-to-face interaction opportunity. And I find it interesting how faculty are being very creative in how they would like to ensure that it's the student that's taking the test and that there's integrity involved. And it's shifting towards not a remote, they're pushing for something more face-to-face, even during these pandemic times. And of course, our institution has many processes in place to make sure that we check for temperature and we ask the questions, have you been traveling before they come on campus? So I think my biggest challenge is to convince those faculty that we can use alternate measures for those high stakes tests. I've taught for 10 years and also been an administrator. So I've been in their shoes for many years. And many of my strategies are fully leveraging the LMS. As you know, one of the topics you're going to talk about is open book tests. And if we can limit the time and duration and do some random tests, there's a lot of features in LMSs that help to ensure academic integrity and allow us to lower costs and help faculty see that there's additional options besides the ProctorU or the Proctorials or the HonorLock or the Respondus, are those tools that are out there today. So that's the challenges and how we're trying to overcome them. And just a little bit about how, face-to-face is still something that some faculty are still pursuing.
Thank you so much. But I think there's one thing that you just talked about, Dr. Perez. You talked about cost is also an important factor when universities ponder about going online. Now, there's one thing that I don't know if we are actually, even considering that. When we actually calculate the cost of implementing something online, let's say for the cost of implementing online examinations. Now, of course, when we are rolling out MCQs, and if we take most of the assessments which happen, a lot of them are going to be around MCQs, objectives. In fact, we have technology and I have personally been working on a product wherein we are trying to build AI around automatic assessments of essays. And we already have that, but then we're trying to build something which is more robust, which is almost like 95%, 96% correct. Are we counting the faculty hours lost? And that's very important. Are we really counting the faculty hours lost only in assessment of papers? Because when you have simple paper-based examinations, there's a lot of time which the faculty invest in just assessing those papers. So, and probably they could have used that time for something more meaningful, probably research or something else, and probably use that for delivery and direct contact with students. So I think that's also an important thing that we should consider when we actually do a profit and loss statement for the investment on online technology. With this, let's move to India. Dr. Sancheri, I'm coming to you. We would like to know what's actually happening in India. How has your university, SRM University, which is definitely one of the premier universities, private universities of India, how has it responded, and typically for the online examination?
Fine. Thank you so much. Number one, there's always a change, resistance to change, we know, which was said by others also. But in this case, it is not so. Our students and maybe our faculty, I can say, have taken this change like fish to water, and they have embraced it. There's hardly any resistance or hardly any challenge as far as mentally accepting it. We also know that old habits die hard, but the hard things happened in form of COVID. So everything changed without much of fuss. You'll be surprised to know that if in the offline mode or contact mode, our classes were enjoying, let's say, attendance of 60, 70, 80%, the attendance has gone up on an average by 10, 15, 20%. And constantly I'm getting answers from my faculty around 90%. And we have created dashboards of variety of kind. You know that we have 50,000 plus students and all in kind of offline mode, typically earlier. And therefore we need to monitor how is it going. And we find attendances to be very, very good. So I would say that we have accepted it in full without any difficulty. And yes, to begin with, during the month of March, April, May, when the final year students were to graduate and go for their jobs and other things, there were different methods adopted. They were given MCQs and the online vivas and interviews were taken for them and assessments were done for their projects. But in the later part, we have gone into the so-called online proctored examination without any challenge. Initially, yes, students were not ready. They were thinking if they can be kind of given an upgrade without the examination because of pandemic situation. I think the government became very firm when the students were moving for such a upward move, and therefore examination became mandatory for us. And we took the examinations and we have successfully declared the results of all of them. We already had our own expertise, internal tools also for doing the continuous assessment. And therefore, based on this experience learned, we will say that we will more focus, going forward, will focus more on the continuous assessments rather than wait for the end-term assessments in future. That is one thing for sure, because you never know when you get stuck with something. So that is a good thing. And to do continuous evaluation, I think someone was just now, it was being shared, that we need not waste so much of time in conducting the examinations formally every time. A pen and a paper and a time slot and a day given, and then movement of the students and the teacher wasting time for invigilation. I think technology can randomly give it to the people. So as I said, I'm a technologist and very fancied by that. I would possibly say that technology would help me in a big way, and therefore we are going to embrace it in a big way. I just give you a couple of examples why SRM will take this particular route. Number one, we all want now open book examinations to become the new norm, which is not there in India right now, because the rest of your life as a professional, you are giving open book examination system. No one asks you to reproduce, define, derive, draw, and describe kind of a thing. They just need answer to the problem, which is an open book ended. You can talk to any friend, whether it's William or whether it's Thomas or anyone, and get the answer. I think that is the open book approach. So in open book, if it is there, I don't have to carry all lot of material, and therefore technology will be helpful. I can carry a small device where allowed resources are accessible to all of us, and I can give the open book examination system. The second thing possibly would be, I should be in my life, eat when I want to eat, dress the way I want to dress. I do it on my choice. I study what I want to study. Then in case of examination also, I should appear in the examination when I want to. I think that is a liberty I'd like to give to my students. And therefore, the element of on-demand examination. And on-demand examinations cannot be done in the physical mode without the help of technology. Technology can be a good slave for us, and let's use it as much as we can and make ourselves more comfortable. So this on-demand examination will also happen only through technology. I give you one or two more examples, and probably I'll come later again. We always ask the students, have you sat in examination? No, why should I sit in the examination? Why can't I stand in the examination? People ask, have you written your examination? Why should I write my examination? Why shouldn't I speak when I'm appearing the examination? I think all those technology called natural language processing and various other tools which are going to be there, I can appear in the examination in the way I want. Let me be student-centric. Let me give him or her a choice, whether you want to be in offline mode or online mode, whether you want to be a standing examination or sitting examination, whether you will be writing examination or speaking the examination, whether you will want this. And therefore, this is what technology provides us. Right now, we were probably one-dimensional in our approach in terms of examination, and now probably the dimensions will be 2, 3, 4. I do not know how many dimensions one can go. When it comes to the last point, a lot of people were worried about the sensitivity in the examination. Would one cheat? Would there be copying? Or can proctoring help enough? I don't think so. I've been in this profession for last 36 years, and before that, probably 15, 20 years of my education. I've never seen cheating getting stopped by any means. If it has to happen, and if a person is bent upon doing cheating, he or she does. And therefore, in that case, we feel more challenged as invigilators, as teachers, that we have to challenge them and bring the proof along and do the penalty and all that. Now this technology will capture everything. Now this technology will tell me everything. If someone has done something wrong, if Mr. Saurav has done something wrong, he'll be caught. I don't have to worry much about it. And I wouldn't mind, instead of me as an invigilator in the class, if the cameras and the eyes and ears of a robot acts as an invigilator, I'm pretty happy with that, even if it is in the kind of offline mode. And therefore, I'm saying technology is going to be a big thing. And the last thing which I'll possibly can add here right now is that you are in Australia, but you are belonging to Ireland or UK, wherever, and you want to conduct the examination of your students there. I think world over or India over or everywhere, we can create teaching learning centers. We can also create what we call the assessment and examination centers. I think you have probably seen the concept of internet cafes. I don't know in how many countries it prevails, but internet cafes are very, very popular. Why can't I have examination cafes where you can walk in and you have the device, you have the connectivity, and you have all the very serious or required environment, which is properly sanitized for examination. And my examiner or my teacher can give me the examination sitting at a far distance from US or UK, anywhere, give me the examination and I'll be fine. I think that is the beauty of technology, in my opinion, Saurabhji, and therefore we are very, very keen and we are taking lead in implementing most of the things. We have already enrolled 2-3 external agencies to experiment with what kind of situations or what kind of things they give to us. And I'm sure going forward will help all our students who are enrolling with us to make sure that rather than giving them books from the library or anything, we'll give them the devices which will be appropriate for them to do the teaching learning as well as for appearing in the examination. So these are the directions we have. Thank you.
So true. Thank you so much, sir, for your insight. I think there were a couple of insights. One, definitely you touched upon open book exams. I think a lot of us have always been talking about open book exams, and because it's true, in real life, there are no books that you have to, in fact, there's no proctoring on top of your head. If there's a task which is given to you, you have all the access to yourself. You have the access to the internet, you have the access to people, you have the access to all the books in the world. So I think, yes, I think the most important thing that needs to change is definitely the format of how we have been assessing. So if we are actually going online, or whatever mode and mechanism that we are adopting, the first thing that really needs to be revamped is the entire format of assessment. The entire approach to assessment needs to change, whether it's open book exams, whether it is audio video exams that Dr. Sancheti just talked about. That's also very important. A lot of universities, I have been part of the research where some universities actually implemented only audio-based exams, which means a question was shown to a candidate. In fact, just an MCQ also, because in MCQ, what we're actually doing, it's a 25% probability that even with guesswork, I'll get it right. But when you're actually just asking the question and the candidate has to answer that in just 10 seconds to 20 seconds, you have the timer on the screen. It's actually, he knows it or he doesn't. So if you're actually trying to do memory-based assessment, right? Probably you can do something like that. But if you're trying to do assessments which are more analytical, your comprehension of information and data is important. Probably we can use all kinds of, tools, modes, and mechanisms. And we have to think, start thinking. This is probably my second question, to start thinking beyond the MCQ, start thinking beyond the essay type answers. So I think that's a very interesting point Dr. Sancheti brought in. Let's go to Dr.
Add one small point to this, what you're saying. There was a comment about technology that initially you have to invest more or whatever. Everywhere in the world, we have seen once technology sets in properly, the costs go down. Please see the cost of mobile and the mobile services and the communication. Please see the cost of the solar energy. It is much lesser than the conventional energy. Very soon you will see the electrical vehicles will bring the cost of transportation down. And in the same way, the cost of education will come down because of the technology. One component for sure, sitting in India, I can take classes of Stanford without having to go there, travel, visas, and stay, and various other costs which are there, and the purchase power parity factors which will influence against me. And therefore, technology has all the power to reduce the cost and, of course, deliver everything on demand. So this is just a small addition I thought I'll do as a comment to the other previous comments. Thank you.
True. Absolutely true. Dr. Scott, your views.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with a lot of what people have been saying. I think the costs are initial, right? The startup, and they're significant. Don't get me wrong, to do this at scale. So, that's some of the, we operate on short time horizons when we think sometimes financially. So it's got to come out of your pocket now or over a short time window, but the investment pays off in the long run. There's also some training and expertise that's involved in doing assessment well. I think as we start to look at assessments that we're doing in our classrooms, formatively and summatively, we don't see as much good assessment as we'd like to see, right? A clear alignment between the assessments and the learning objective, which is why maybe we default to things like multiple choice questions and think we're getting at analytical reasoning when it's hard to do that with that particular assessment type. And the other thing in terms of cost is just we have a real issue within the United States and throughout the world in terms of giving access to people to these connected technologies and making sure that people in rural areas, people of different socioeconomic backgrounds have the ability to take advantage of technology when we move in that direction at scale. So if this is the way forward, there's a lot of investment that's needed for us to solve the problem that we've always had in higher education, which is getting access to higher education for people who need it throughout the world. I think there are tons of advantages to doing assessment online. Just think of all the data that you have at your fingertips when it is collected online. Think of the ability to provide real-time feedback to individuals as they're performing the assessment, right? And directing them to resources in real time, maybe even to formatively direct them in an area where they are having difficulty. Integrating with multimedia and taking advantage of the world of technology that we have available to us and that we all use in our everyday lives. I agree with a lot of what everybody says. The world of work is moving online. We're not using. I very rarely use a paper or pencil these days. So we should be training and educating people in the environments that they're going to be working in when we give them access and increasing access to those opportunities for more people. Too. And I agree, it's still early. The costs are high because it's early, but AI, machine learning, cloud computing, the amount of storage that's going to have available to us, the speed at which we're able to process information, all of this stuff is going to increase the power up by which we both educate students online and are able to assess students online. I think to me, the real issue for all of us right now is still around access to higher education. And I think if we invest in the infrastructure and give all people access to technology, I think there's things that we can do that we haven't been able to do in a traditional face-to-face environment with higher education.
Wonderful. I think that's very valid. Typically what's really happening in US, because of course in US and so many educators and friends and faculty across the US, and they have been telling that of course US really struggled first of all in the first few months. Nobody even thought about assessments or examinations in the US until July. I mean, we were all really struck with the magnitude of the pandemic. So that really didn't really come across. But now, yes, I think, infrastructure may not be a challenge like you said, but yes, there is a lot of education that needs to be done. There is little resistance that really does come from some faculty, the universities. I think one of the major challenges also about the cost on it. There is a lot of innovation. And in fact, World Assessment Council has also been very active on implementing technology and solutions across universities and breaking that myth that it's really not that expensive. We have empowered more than 800 universities, schools around the world with the virtual examination center that we have been promoting. And the cost has been really down south. And how we have been able to do that is because we understand that technology is implemented well, and if technology comes with a vision and a mission, a lot of startups have really started to pivot. A lot of startups have really started to add more value, because earlier there were less takers and less consumers of the technology. Now certainly there is a tremendous push and there's a lot of consumption. And because the consumption goes high, it works ironically in a different way here. The costs are going to go down. And every startup and every vendor around the world and every company which has been doing research around online technology, they have been bringing down the cost. So I think the first most important thing for most of the universities is to explore more options and look at this technology as something that is not really expensive. It can be implemented. And there's so many things. Like Microsoft is doing a lot of work there. Google is doing a lot of work there. A lot of research is going on. In fact, Zoom is also coming up with its tools. WAC is also, World Assessment Council has also built tools, working with a lot of educators and researchers. So a lot of good things, good news is going to come. It's just that people should have to just move to and have the will and the agenda to go online. Technology is real disruption is going to come in. The disruption in terms of the technology, the disruption in terms of the pricing. Okay, with that, going to Ms. Isa from Malaysia. Your views, ma'am. What's happening in Malaysia with UNIME?
Thank you very much, Mr. Gupta. As I mentioned that I'm from what you call very boutique university. Our programs are only in computer science, IT, and also computer engineering. So you know, when I say that, you know, everyone would think that online examination will not be a problem to us. Yeah. But I think when we wanted to implement the online examination, the main challenges is to address the apprehensions and also the worries from all the different sides of people, the lecturers, the university management, the students, you know, everyone has their own worries, their own apprehensions toward online exam. As Prof. Painter said just now, for online classes, sometimes people are just doing the same thing, but you know, doing the same thing as they did in the face-to-face classes, but just going online, doing it, you know. So there's no different in doing it. So the expectations of many is that it's not going to be any different from the exam that they are familiar with. You know? So we, in addressing all those challenges, so what we did was we compiled the questions and worries, you know, that were raised by lecturers, the management, and so on. And we extensively and intensively discussed about all those questions and trying to see what would be the best for our students, you know, in organizing the exam, because it's always, the concern is always for the students. And we decided that we have no choice. We have to proceed with the online exam. With the current pandemic, we have no choice, we have to proceed. Then we started looking at what are the support that we can give, you know, because we talk about accessibility. Students are in different areas. Connections are, you know, not all good in certain places. So we have to look at what are the alternatives available for these students. And based on that, we then, because the online exams are available through a lot of platforms, you know, a lot of, as you say, you know, a lot of organizations are offering the online exam platforms. So what we did is we get a few lecturers to test the different platforms, and then we come up with the one that we think would be best for our students and or for our lecturers. So with that, we have chosen one that you know, would be able to provide what they call mechanism if students are facing difficulties in connection while doing the exam online. And it went very well in September. It went very well, and now I think we are ready to carry on, you know, for the coming semesters. So, but as mentioned by Professor Sanchez just now, I mean, I as an academic and also as a university administrator, I'm hoping that in the future, we do not have to confine students to doing the exam during the time that we want them to do. You know, we should be able to, to allow them to sit for exam at any time they want, wherever they want. And, you know, we are looking at system because people or the university governance would be questioning about the integrity of the exam if you are not proctoring it, you know, in a certain organized time. So we are looking at a system maybe, you know, that would be able to change the kind of question the students get, but with the same quality when they go at different time of the examination. So I think online exam is no longer a choice. It is a necessity. And, we have to embrace it. We have to go for it.
Much, I think, that really sums up everything what's happening in Malaysia. We have spoken to a couple of universities in Malaysia extensively, UNIME, a lot of them, and everybody resonates what Ms. Issa just said. Moving to Dr. Gavin Clinch. Gavin, your views, what's happening in Ireland, and what do you think are the challenges? I think there are a lot of things that we wanted to cover. Probably will stretch this entire session by another 15, 20 minutes just to cover a few things. I think most of the questions that we had with this conversation and what we're talking about, we've already covered a lot of things. So we'll try to wrap up by 7:15, which is like 9:45 Eastern time. Dr. Gavin, your views, please.
Thank you. There's some fantastic points have been made. So leaves me a lot less to say than I might have said. But there's some great points. I agree with and there seems to be a lot of agreement, which is interesting as well. So I think something that we haven't really touched upon yet, which I have been very focused on, is learning outcomes and how we break down a program, the program learning outcomes, and then we have the module learning outcomes. So when you do a program of study, you might be doing in I suppose the European context, a 5-credit module, a 10-credit module. And what we see is that students then atomize the learning. So they break it down and they say, well, what do I need to do to pass the exam or the assessment for this module? And what we find then is that they don't always apply that learning or that knowledge to another module in that program, because they're so focused on simply that module in itself. I was an architect. I studied architecture. I taught it before I got into the online space, and we didn't do exams. We had a portfolio at the end of the year, and this is really high stakes. It's and all of the learning has to be exhibited and demonstrated. So you synthesize the knowledge that you've gained from all of the modules and all of the teaching, and you apply it to a project. Now, and I argue this with colleagues, that this is a really good model to have a kind of program-focused assessment where there's no escaping, there's no opportunity to cheat, and that's something else that we're facing, not just with plagiarism, but with SA Mills and other modes and smart technologies. That there's no opportunity. It's very, very personal. You're presenting your portfolio. You're standing up. You're defending your drawings, kind of like a Viva. Now the issue there, the challenge there is assessment at scale, and which is something that we're really talking about in terms of technology. How can technology help us do assessment at scale? And that is a challenge. I probably can't answer that one in the context of the architecture education. But I think that's another dimension that we need to consider. In terms of costs, when we introduced online exams, and really we only introduced it for students who couldn't perhaps travel to Ireland, we had 3 exam centres in Ireland, one in Sligo, one in Dublin, one in Cork. And that's still a lot of travelling for people. And in terms of our own institute, it meant invigilators had to go down to that exam centre. This is a physical exam centre. Papers had to be copied. There was distribution of exam papers, which was perhaps the security of which could have been challenged. So there are those kind of issues. Whereas when our students did them online, it was a cheaper model. But I agree with Dr. Sanchetti. He said that we need to have open book exams, and I think that comes back to what I'm saying about the architecture program, because it's a lot of the exams are really just about memory recall and kind of recollection of that knowledge. It's not about the application of knowledge, which is what we want to see, and we certainly want to see that from our students when they move into a working environment.
True. Thank you so much, Gavin, for your input there. I'm really intrigued about your background. I mean, like, I've seen all the books closed. All your books in the background are open. I really love your background.
It's a metaphor. Open book exams.
Yeah, exactly. You made the point there. Okay, wonderful. Dr. Suhag, coming back to India, what's your experience, ma'am?
Thank you, Mr. Saurabh. In fact, virtual examination in real world and real examination in virtual world has become the new normal for some time now, that we all understand. And the current pandemic has made it mandatory for all the education sector to envision and accept change with agility and flexibility, while being subject to a restricted, mostly because we know that we are homebound now, space has become positive and negatives, which we all are experiencing globally. There is a need to assess the shift the education assessment system have subjected to. And the World Assessment Council has taken such a beautiful topic to have it a session conducted with so many leaders sitting here. Now, while it opens up several avenues of education for many who could not physically access it earlier, these are some of the limitations to incorporation of a virtual assessment platform in the system. So the assessment system needs to be tweaked, even replaced, because of the challenges of the traditional assessment implementation, because there were courses which were taught earlier and the assessment for those courses were not made for online. So there were certain changes which are required to be done. So some of the critical challenges which I thought I should share it here is, first, the foremost challenge is the capacity of the faculty to frame MCQs. It requires a specialized technique we all understand and the knowledge in depth. And as it is teaching, has been a preferred option for the students in the top bracket in the developing countries like India. Thus, there are capacity constraints as far as faculty is concerned. Generally, the faculty, they lack depth domain knowledge and communication skills. And these are the major two prerequisites, I must say, for framing the MCQs. The faculty should possess good communication skills, we understand, else the whole system will suffer and the students will also be confused with the getting such kind of multiple choice questions with a different kind of meaning which is coming out altogether, with a lack of communication skills from the faculty side. So the faculty should be, there is a need to be trained not only for task of framing MCQs, but also to enhance their domain knowledge and upgrade their communication skills. Conducting practical examination is also a big challenge, which I feel so, and perhaps of simulation techniques with help of custom built software that can help, but that will take some time and a lot of capital investment will also be needed for such things. And it is difficult to assess critical thinking, analytical ability, creativity through online assessment mode. For this purpose, we need to develop a dynamic two-way interaction system for preparing the questions. To do that, it will require question bank, which has questions that are dynamic and interactive. This is a laborious process and will require huge amount of investment, time and money. For example, I think Sancheti sir, because I know they offer medical courses also, teaching a medical student how difficult it will be for giving them a medical training, because they are to be told what kind of sufferings are there, then how the prescriptions are, what type of treatment, what type of diagnostic, this thing. So it is a little laborious and a tedious purpose, which will require certain kind of expertise. It will require paper setters for high level of domain knowledge and experience, and which is going to be a long-term project. And similarly, in courses like music, there will be a requirement for audio feedback from the students. The question may also have an audio component to it. In medical sciences, there may be a requirement of both video as well as audio component to be part of examination system. It requires special expertise and knowledge to design open book questions, which had been discussed before, like especially if we talk about mathematics subjects. Framing a open book question for mathematics and for MCQ is a difficult task. not every faculty is capable for designing questions that can help in consonance with this mode. So I thought I'll just share my concerns for some of the challenges which I think can be deliberated further. So thank you, Saurabh, for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Dr. Suhag. In fact, you also resonated. We also, all of us probably resonate with most of the challenges that you mentioned. I think most of the universities have really worked in that direction to overcome them.
And I
So
just
true.
want to add here, like in BML Munjal University, all the online kind of, the teaching learning process started immediately as soon as this lockdown period started in India. And then online examination, everything went on time. There was not much of the problem, but that may be, the type of students which we are getting, they are from a middle or the upper class family. They had all kind of support system at home also, so we could conduct examination as well. So as we discussed, a lot of cost, a lot many things are to be looked after going ahead. Thank you.
So true. Going ahead, did I miss anybody on this? Because I have such a huge panel. I have 12 people. I think we already lost Ala Marshan because he was running out of his battery. Did I miss anybody on the views here? I guess.
Me.
Sorry. Hey, Anthony. So sorry about this. Really love your background. You have the most professional background. I'm like, I really envy that. So please, Anthony, yeah, love to hear from you. What's happening at University of Illinois?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you all for your phenomenal viewpoints. They really resonate with a lot of both the research that I have been looking at, as well as the framework that I actually teach my students in terms of how to facilitate a really quality online and in-person college learning environment. One of the themes that I'm hearing is getting from the study mentality to the learning mentality. That transition where students are able to really focus on learning the material by studying for a test and then kind of flushing the material and forgetting it, whereby they're unable to make quality connections across disparate fields. And that gets back to what we just heard about regarding the necessity to deep dive into the material, critical thinking, and then to make those connections, creative thinking. I think that the use of online proctoring is absolutely a necessary evil, but it's a necessary evil because, like we've already been talking about, we haven't chosen to change how we assess student understanding of the material. I mean, the use of online proctoring really reinforces this functional viewpoint of learning, whereby the learning is measured at a particular time and place and with a set of criteria. However, this method ultimately focuses on lower order thinking skills and will likely be encouraged more and more as these facilities are proliferated. In the United States, proctoring centers, Pearson VUE and ProctorU are two of the most popular ones. But if we look at the proliferation of these centers since 2012, they've more than doubled the number of online proctoring centers. And while many educational advocates think that this is a success, we have to think of what these centers are actually designed for. They're really designed to measure lower order thinking skills, because ultimately the types of assessments that flow through these centers are multiple choice questions, very few essay questions. And even if they are essay questions, you're only getting at like the analysis level. I also want to connect it to workforce training development or workforce development in terms of how our university educations correlate to developing people who are ready for the workforce. In a February 2020 article that was published through the American Education Research Association, the researchers took screen captures from over 200,000 unique job advertisements across 5 occupational areas. And what they found was a clear-cut demand for oral communication, written communication, collaboration, and problem solving. None of what we typically measure really correlates to those items, especially when we're focused on lower order thinking skills. So these types of evaluations that are measured at these online via online proctoring, or when we go to these proctoring centers, are generally summative evaluations, high stakes. And these testing centers are designed to, the types of assessments that these proctoring centers are designed to host fly in the face of what the workforce is asking for. They're not asking for regurgitation. They're asking for people to be able to make disparate connections across a multitude of ideas. They're asking for people who can solve problems to scale. They're not asking for whether a student can recite the Pythagorean theorem. And this goes back to something that Neil deGrasse Tyson, the famous astrophysicist, said at a college commencement address that he gave. He said, do I want a student who can tell me what the distance is from the top of this tower to the ground? Or do I want a student who knows how to figure it out? That's the difference in what we're talking about here. I want to make one other point, and that's these virtual exam centers are a quintessential capitalist product, whereby we've determined it necessary to create an entire new industry just for proctoring tests. And this industry really couches itself in the guise of convenience. And it absolutely is convenient for professors and it's convenient for students. But it definitely enhances student anxiety, as well as the role of surveillance on the part of the industries for the students. In her book, The Age of Surveillance Capitalism, Shoshan Zuboff claimed that there are two species of power: totalitarianism and instrumentarianism, whereby the central metaphor of instrumentarianism is that we have the big other, unlike Big Brother in totalitarianism. And the ultimate end state of instrumentarianism is for certain tools of power to be used for societal optimization, for the sake of market objectives. In other words, a utopia of certainty. And these platforms fall directly in line with what Zuboff discusses in her book. They are a means of surveillance for the sake of certainty, at the expense of privacy and continual instrumentation of power on the part of these institutions who are using them. So there's a lot of things to unpack with these tools that we use to evaluate students. But whenever it comes to surveillance, whenever it comes to whether they are more market-driven versus learning-driven, I think that's questionable. Thank you so much.
Thanks for that, Anthony. I think there are a lot of points that you did cover. I think when we were talking about virtual examination centers, I understand that in the US, ProctorU and Pearson, and we're talking about real physical centers. When Dr. Century also talked about we can have physical centers. But the point is, physical centers will still be physical. And there is still an element of physical manual invigilation involved at those centers. When we say virtual examination center, we're talking about a center which is completely online. I mean, like it itself is virtual. There's no existence. There's no physical existence of that virtual examination center. But I think, with that viewpoint, what you actually spoke about, we also spoke about if we can have components where we can actually address and evaluate a lot of non-tangible aspects of a person's personality, like psychometric evaluation. There's so many other behavioral skill sets which need to be evaluated. And I think online assessments definitely have been addressing those issues for the workforce for years, and has been adopted pretty well as well across the corporate fabric. But yes, education definitely has started to adopt that. And I think, as and when we go online, most of the issues and challenges that you're facing will be addressed. So I think we almost consumed the time. So, and I think we almost discussed most of the important things that we wanted to discuss in this conversation. But there's one last question that I would want to take to everyone is, everybody wants to understand, in fact, even we at World Listing Council and so many educators, we also want to understand, are we going to actually implement this online? Is it going to be sustained post-pandemic? are we still going to stay online once everything is normal? And there are two components to this question, and we can just address it that way. One, whether universities will go back to the traditional paper-based assessment, and what is the advantage and disadvantage of it? And second, why should those universities, what do you think, should they stay online? Is there any benefit of staying online than rather than being pushed by the magnanimous pandemic into going online? So what do you think would happen post the pandemic once everything starts to come back to normal, probably in a year's time or whenever that happens? So start with Gavin. Would you like to go first on this?
Thank you, Saurabh. Yeah, it's a great question, and it's one that we have been kind of pondering and thinking about. At my own institute, I know that there is a kind of a hunger to get back to running the exams for the full-time students, for the campus-based students, to run them again. We've postponed exams for first years in semester one with some. We'll have to look at how we do assessment for the other students. But I suppose we don't know yet. We can't have a physical exam in January. Some of it depends on how long the pandemic runs on for. Because people, as they start to experience it as lecturers, as academics, start to work through that experience of doing a different form of assessment and then hopefully reflecting on it, as we've all been talking about in terms of more authentic assessment, that they see the advantages of that and that they then buy into that. I think from the students' perspective as well, that they, if the assessment is good, if it's meaningful, they will also support a change of assessment methods. And I think for the universities, perhaps for the management of the university, I mean, at my own institute, we are the leaders in online in Ireland, and we've often had this debate. Well, when are the other universities going to catch up with us? And some of them are bigger than us, are they going to overtake us? And we're looking over our shoulder more closely than we were 12 months ago. And I think that they will see that yes, this can work. That we can provide a quality education to students probably beyond the boundaries of Ireland. You know, we would see ourselves as a global provider of education, and I think other big universities will embrace that as well. So there are a number of players, there are a number of stakeholders that are going to be fighting over this and battling over this in terms of your question and in terms of where we go. But I think we will see, in general, we will see that there are huge advantages with provided by technology, provided we get the pedagogy right, provided we get the assessment right. I stop there because I'm conscious of time. Thank you.
I think probably that's what everybody is thinking about. Everybody knows that there is definitely an air to it, but I think this will definitely clear out when things unfold. A lot of successful case studies do come up, and I think we're still in a stage where we still don't know what's going to happen. So I think probably with time, this entire decision of whether to stay online probably will find more advantages, and probably the advantages will outweigh the disadvantages, and we would probably continue the way this has been going. But definitely, hybrid is the way forward, and online is there to stay. Thank you so much for this. Can we have Dr. Painter on this? I've given you enough rest, Dr. Painter.
I fell asleep during part of this, so my apologies. No, this has been absolutely fascinating. It's been absolutely fascinating, and I feel really, really, it would be trite to say honored, but this has been great. This has been really, really lovely. And as to, are they going to go? University's going to go back? Well, I think you're going to have to ask the students that question, because the students are the drivers in this process. I've got a 13-year-old boy. 5 years, he's going to be going to university. Right now, he coordinates World of Warcraft teams to go in and to tackle a boss or to manage a fight. And he's working with 25, 30 people online. He coordinates all that, works out the math on what is necessary. He's got gear that it's all math-based stuff. And he's just all over that. And then he sets that aside and he sits at a Zoom meeting for school watching Talking Heads, and it's soul killing. You know, it's just soul killing. And I think, and Thomas is nodding. He agrees with me. There has got to be, when these kids who grew up around this technology and who know how to interact, how to grab, how to coordinate, how to collaborate, how to communicate with people who are not in the same space at all, physical space, when they hit college, they're going to be expecting to continue to work and learn that way. And to say, oh no, you need to be quiet, sit down in a chair and take notes for everything I say. You know, I just don't see that flying. I really don't. I see the market, the students are going to be have expectations. You take an old guy like me, I had to learn how to type, you know, for my when I was writing my dissertation. I'm like, oh golly, typing. Oh, can I get somebody to do that? My son types better than I do, you know? And so we want to talk about biometrics. I loved Dr. Perez's, you know, how everybody types different. Of course, it's just like one of those obvious things that nobody thinks about. Everybody types slightly differently. And I think that these discussions of universities had better sort of wake up and catch up to the market space, or they're going to find that there will be institutions who do meet those expectations and those needs of the future students. That's my.
Can I possibly come in?
Yes, yes.
This is jumping out of his skin here.
Absolutely, you're talking my language. I just want to. I want to start off by saying, we talked there about in 5 years the students who are doing that. They're already here. The students we have in our classes, in our lecture theatres right now, they were doing that. William's talking about World of Warcraft. That's a 16-year-old game. The people who were doing the things that his son is doing, some of them have already been through. They've already had that experience, and to some degree, we've already failed to provide that quality of experience that we could have done, and we have been failing to provide that for several years. Like, this isn't a new thing that we need to change. We in the education sector are playing catch up to those experiences that they can find elsewhere. And not only are those experiences things that they can find elsewhere, those experiences and skills are exactly the things that Anthony was talking about, the private sector demanding. Those are the things. William's son learning how to coordinate a team of 25 people to do his heroic mythic raiding in World of Warcraft, learning how to optimize his own workflow within the game to get the best results out of it, learning how to solve the problems that each of those encounters put forward, and learning how to deploy the resources he has, some of which being the people he plays with, in order best to do that. Those are things that a video game is doing, has been doing for 15, 16 years. And online assessment offers us the opportunity to do that. Not in terms of having our students fighting a dragon, as much as some of them might love that, but in terms of assessment through presenting students with simulations, with problems, and asking them to solve them individually, in groups, seeing how they put forward that, seeing how they've used their resources, how they deploy that. Those are the things we can and should be doing in examinations in the future. And the technology for it is here now, if we want to reach out and grab it. I think I've said my piece there.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of point there. Okay, one question before I actually go to the next person. Do you think online examinations are going to go 100% online, completely online? I mean, all the exams. When do you think, when you 5 years, 20 years, when you see all the examinations around the world going 100% online? That's a little futuristic question. Thomas, yes, no, and when would that happen?
That is a very interesting question, to go 100% online.
I'm talking about just the assessments. I mean, like, I understand when it comes to the delivery, and we understand that hybrid is the way forward. So we will have brick and mortar. Let's not really jeopardize the importance of, physical and traditional education.
Absolutely.
But yes, assessment speed. When I say online, even in person, the examinations can happen on your laptop, can happen in the computer centers. So, or even on mobile. Everybody carries a mobile. So when do you see that happening?
When do I, everything delivered, all assessment done digitally, in some form. I can't see any reason why we shouldn't be reaching for that. Absolutely within the next, I can't see any reason why we shouldn't be reaching for that within the next 5 years. I can't see any reason why we shouldn't be achieving that, given that some places will take longer than others to adapt within the next
Wonderful.
10. I think,
Wonderful.
I think the kids that are currently going into secondary school, I think many of them will not sit a paper exam.
Can I try to answer 100% thing?
Dr. Cherry, yes, why don't we have, yes, your view, sir,
Okay.
on this?
There's nothing in life, my dear, which can be called 100%. We are talking of a system overtaking everything else. It's not possible. My take here would be, it will be personalized. People as they like will take those examinations or classes or time or everything will be student-centric or personalized to a high level. I give you a counter example. I'm doing a hotel management and catering program. Would you be kind of assessing me in my kitchen performance or cooking performance through online? I would doubt. The same thing possibly can be said for architecture or fashion design. Or maybe you yourself gave the example of medical to some extent, though I don't fully agree on medical. Medical, something can be done, but still. And therefore, I would say that the mixed and the blended mode will remain. Let's accept one fact in our life. I'm an electronics engineer, so I'm giving you that example. Look at a single device which probably existed 100 years back or 80 years back or 60 years back. And has it gone out of vogue? Answer is no. Everything which comes in this world in terms of technological world finds a niche for itself. The same is with the practices and the trends. And therefore, a lot of things which were there in the past will remain. Technology would not be a pain, and it would be, again, we understand, but gain cannot be infinite, that it will wipe off everything else. Similarly, technology probably would divide, as we say in India, that digital divide is there everywhere. But I firmly believe it will be a digital provide. It will be providing certain things which were otherwise not available to us. And therefore, you can possibly say that 100% will not be an answer, but just to support that, it will be close to 90% or 85%. Till 2019 end December, we were punishing students who were carrying devices in the classes, certainly in the examination centers, barring them from that examination, making it 0 score or whatever. And today we are rolling the red carpet for them, that come with your devices, we are ready to take examination. World can change in a flip. That is what I will say. But I'll still say 100% of anything in terms of efficiency or provision or setup or style is probably not good. However, keep in mind, in India, particularly, if I say, we were working on access and equity and affordability. Access and equity can come very easily through technology because it will not differentiate between race, caste, creed, whatever, local geographical region. Affordability will come over a period of time, I believe. Technology is always done, and I've given you example for that. But today, if I'm looking in my education system, 2 more parameters, which is called efficiency and speed. I think both will come through technology only, be it examination or teaching learning. And therefore, we will possibly reach a saturation level of around 90% in technology. And that would happen earlier than what you might be envisaging. My take would be 5 years, Mr. Saurabh. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. So one more question there, sir. I completely understand that, of course, when we talk about assessments, there are assessments which are going to happen, the formative, summative assessments. So we have assessments which are memory assessments, and what you just spoke about, like the culinary skills or somebody's skills, like a mechanical engineer. We definitely need to assess him on how he actually greases his hand on the machine. So of course, there is a component which is going to be a lab or a practical assessment. Of course, that you cannot take online. So I'll rephrase the question for you. Any question or any examination which is happening on paper, any examination, be it for any vocation, any degree that we're talking about, is that going to go online or not? I'm just talking about the paper-based exam. Is that going to go away in the next 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, or even earlier?
Did you ask me that, Saurabh?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So very short answer. Yes, these changes will happen. I may answer this by putting questions to you yourself. Haven't we lost complete significance of postcards and the inlands which we used to post as letters for communication? Completely wiped off by our SMSs, WhatsApps, and emails. Similarly, I do not know how much banking experience all of us have in different ways, but in India, those physical things, going to bank, doing this, drawing currency, making these payments, whatever, everything, drafts, whatever other things have completely vanished. 10 years back, had someone asked me this question, would that happen and this happen? I would have easily said no. But today the answer is completely different. So when it comes to simpler things called pen and paper, I must give you an example. I had a slide. I thought I'll get a chance to show. There will be a thing called foldable displays in times to come, foldable LCD displays, and I'm sure World Assessment Council will embrace them or adopt them easily. That one single foldable display will have the processor integrated into that. That one thing would be my notebook, would be my workbook, would be my library, would be my book, would be my pen, would be my paper. And therefore, where is the question of pen and paper to remain? It will all be in technology. I'll stop carrying heavy bags, heavy books. I'll simply carry one foldable display, and that will be my life as far as the education stuff is concerned. And therefore, answer to your question is yes, big yes.
Wonderful, sir. Wonderful. In fact, that's really encouraging to a lot of people who really are very enthusiastic about the entire digital transformation. And I would really want to associate, you can probably connect World Assessment Council with the people who have built the technology. Would definitely like to explore that and take it to as many universities and schools as possible. Thank you so much, sir, for your contribution. Dr. Perez, I would have you next. What's your view? Is it going to stay? And when are we going 100% online with all paper-based exams?
Yeah, Dr. Painter really hit the nail on the head, because I spoke to a lot of my advisors, and I asked my advisors, what are the anecdotes you're hearing? Because across the board in the state of New Jersey, institutions are down 5, 10, 15, up to 20% in enrollment for this semester. And what I continuously hear is that I am not comfortable with online learning. I prefer being in the classroom. So I think as educators, we need to provide that onboarding experience that is going to help to train. We need to train students how to be good online learners. We just can't assume, yeah, maybe someone can grab Blackboard or Canvas and navigate and do well, but we can't assume that they understand how to work at a synchronous or asynchronous class, the different strategies there. We can't assume that they're going to understand how to navigate the certain functions and features. We need to provide, and I even try to institute a pre-online class orientation certificate, right? So you have 3 online classes, the semester starts on X date. You have 5 days before the class starts to go through this process, and the checklist would then ensure that you've learned these skills that are going to help you become a successful online student. And when you're done, it's going to say, congratulations, here's a certificate. You are now ready to embark on your online course. That credential will be then embedded into your profile, if you will. And at least we have that to ensure success. Right now, we're just throwing everything at them like the wolves. And many of them are just saying, I'm going to wait until we have face-to-face, because I know that Organic Chem 1, Organic Chem 2, Calc 1, Calc 2 are going to be things that I'm not going to be successful in an online environment. I'm going to take a year off and I'm going to work part-time. And this is going to be the 2020 lost year in my educational or my gap year because of what's happening. So this is what I'm hearing, what I'm seeing across the state. And I think it's important to share with the global community right now.
Thank you so much. Ms. Isa, your take, ma'am.
Yeah, I think as it is now, it is still at a mixed feeling, you know, because as Professor Paris has said, you know, students are still, you know, we have groups that wants to have face-to-face and also wants to have a sit-down proper exam, not online and so on. So it's all, again, go back to the students, you know, on what they want. And when we provide education, it's always about students, about giving them what would be best for them. And then I think as time goes by, especially those that we used to have like written paper exam, it will slowly, will not be around anymore. But when you talk about, you know, certain exams that need simulations and so on, that may come back as a face-to-face. But I think that also, you know, certain part of it can be done via online, you know, with now hologram, virtual reality and so on. So maybe that can be replacing some of the face-to-face that needs hands-on kind of exams. But I think as it is now, the feeling is still mixed, even though, as I said just now, for us, the way to go is to go for online exam, but the demand on the students, you know, there are still students who want to be present at campus and sit for the exam at the campus. And we provide that currently, even it's online, but they can come to campus and they can do it, you know, using the facilities at the campus. So as it is, we need to still provide them the alternatives. You know, there are certain courses that we may be able to go online, but there are certain that we think is best to still do it face-to-face.
Thank you so much. I think, you know, that's a very insightful analysis of what's going to happen next. Dr. Hamad, coming to you.
Yes, yeah. Here we have, I think, we're enjoying really a very good situation in Abu Dhabi University. Our enrollment has gone up. During summer, it went up really high. And now in the fall, it's up as well. There are many other universities around finding challenges with enrollment. I think that's credit goes back to our faculty. If we look at the curriculum they created, the type of engagement they have done is really amazing. And we have connected the schools. We had run around 100 workshops for the schools during July, August, competitions and programming, robotics, so many different type of activities and preparation for joining university. We have something called MSAT here, which admission requirement, which will help the student with that. There are still students who say, yes, I wanted face-to-face. I want to be able to directly speak to my professor. I want to be able to use equipment. So we moved into the hybrid learning for this semester. We started with distance learning, and starting mid of October, we will be bringing students in a smaller group to the labs and to different activities to make sure they get the face-to-face and interact with each other, with the faculty, and do the practical components. This depends on the COVID-19. If there is a wave 2, then things might change. We go back to our simulations and things that we keep doing for some time.
Sure, Dr. Hamad. Thank you so much for your insights on this. Scott, what do you think?
Well, I mean, we already are fully online so as a college, so we will continue to be fully online. You know, we are certainly, like Gavin had said earlier, paying attention to other institutions who have been reticent or wary of moving in that direction. And I think it remains to be seen what direction they move. I do think management and administration at those colleges and universities, to William's point, know that that's where the market's going and have been trying to get faculty to move in that direction. Unsuccessfully to date, or at least not as quickly as they probably need to based on what market demand is. And to Gonzalo's point, I mean, not only do we have to orient students to online learning, but it's incumbent upon us to develop really high quality online learning experiences so that when students are within them, they can take full advantage of the platforms that we have available to us. I think the challenge is as educators, especially in the United States, we are not trained to teach. We are not trained to assess. And then we were asked to go out there and do that. And I think colleges and universities are rethinking models around how to support, doctorate prepared professors to do those sorts of things with experts in those areas. So we're often taking mimetic approaches to our own experiences in classrooms, and we're recreating often not the best pedagogy or not the best assessment. And it becomes really clear when you try to take what you've done in a classroom. And the nice thing about college is you have this whole experience around it, especially in the United States. That's enjoyable and interesting. There's the co-curricular, there's the extracurricular, there's the non-curricular components of college that 18 to 21-year-olds really, really like. And when you really just gets down to the teaching and learning, and you see what you were doing in face-to-face, and it's just plopped into an online environment, there are questions about what's going on with the teaching and learning here. So I think the extent to which we move fully online as a society, as a country, is really dependent on how successfully we do it, and whether or not the market thinks that we're doing it well, and that they're learning, or if that's what they want from the education too. We will continue to move forward online. It's a competitive advantage for us that people remain wary about moving online. I think investment and administration management and power within the university structure will move in that direction. I think it will remain slow until the infrastructure underneath it to do it well is built.
True. I think you're in a very fortunate spot where your university has a vision, but there is definitely still a lot of universities and schools where you talk about central US, even in the West Coast or the East Coast, you would find universities and schools still trying to adopt it and still being very confident of going back to what we were doing earlier. But definitely, yes, there is a huge shift, huge shift that is definitely happening across the US as well. Dr. Suhag, coming to you.
Yeah. Sort of this online assessment will continue post-pandemic also, since many institutions like us, we have realized the benefits for conducting the exam online in terms of convenience, efficiency, optimum utilization of resources, security. This online proctoring actually is a start point. There is a lot much which has to be, taken care in online proctoring kind of thing. And given this digital divide, technology platform maturity, there is a long way to go. The know-how among users are still lacking as far as developing countries are concerned. People like, there are such a set of people who are still not tech savvy with the online mode yet. Development of more technically sound and flexible user-friendly softwares for conducting examination is yet to happen. So this online assessment will continue, but I will also agree, and I'll also say that 100% online assessment is not the thing which I can foresee as of now. Maybe, post-pandemic, if we talk about online for 5 years down the line, maybe we'll touch around, say, 80 to 85% of the online examination might be conducted, but not 100% for sure. So that's what my take on that, because there is a lot of convenience involved in this. The result is also prepared very, immediately after the examination is being conducted. And anytime, anywhere, any place you can have the examination. You don't have to wait for any physical infrastructure to be happen, to be made available for that matter. And analytical assessment and reports are also very easily available. So this will continue. This online examination will continue. The percentage for sure will not be 100% because lot many technical this thing are involved. So thanks. That's my take on this.
Slowly and gradually. Anthony, last but not the least, your views.
Yeah, so I do think that, let me back up real quick. So what we're seeing right now is the influx of these virtual reality tools that are being adopted by certain universities. For example, Arizona State University, as of last week, just partnered with a company called Dreamscape to begin developing their courses using complete virtual reality platforms. And that right there is, to be cliche, a paradigm shift insofar as how they are trying to attack their courses. And when we talk about how this correlates to online assessments, whether paper will be replaced with technology, et cetera. Yes, paper will be replaced by technology eventually. Not right now, because this becomes another conversation of those students who are disenfranchised. The socioeconomic conditions of our individual students. Does everyone have access to technology? No. And we would do well to remember that not everyone is going to be able to access these VR platforms. Not everybody will have grown up accessing and understanding how to use these certain tools. I mention all this to say we have to be very vigilant and thinking about the realities of all of our students versus where we just want one particular sector of students to go, the middle to upper class sector. Not everybody grew up with these tools. Not everybody grew up knowing how to type. I can tell you, I taught in a 2-year junior college in Alabama. A lot of my students could barely put together sentences. So while I'm excited about this, while I embrace the idea of virtual reality and augmented reality and whatnot, I also acknowledge the fact that a lot of students can barely type in a lot of cases. They can barely strew together sentences. So we have to be, I guess, cognizant of the fact that, some students, yeah, they may embrace some of this online assessment, but a lot of them still will embrace paper and pencil because we still have an economic disparity between truthfully our classes. I mean, classism exists. I'll also say this: secondary education is more fluid in being able to adapt to change, whereas higher education has always been slower to adapt and always nostalgic about its traditions. I'd say those who appreciate the potential of technology and understand its value and creating efficiencies will adopt it, but those who have a lower appreciation, kind of this Luddite mindset, won't. So in short, it's going to be a mixed bag in higher ed with more potential in secondary ed. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Terry. Yes, of course, this is going to be a mixed bag. Thank you so much for your time. I'm already 30 minutes off what I actually asked you all to contribute. And thank you so much for being so patient. It was really a wonderful conversation. We learned a lot. I think there's a lot of takeaways from this for all of us here and everybody who is watching this. And we will also present this entire thing as an edited version later, and probably will also go as in one of the documentaries that World Assessment Council is going to produce. So we all agree, we touched upon so many things. You talked about cost, mindset, exam format, infrastructure, scale, and everything else. And slowly we will go towards online, but it's going to be definitely, we're not going to shun away what we have been doing for years, and we will do what's the best. The way we have shunned away all the paper-based things, it will definitely go away, but we'll also retain what has been the best in terms of getting the best learning outcomes. So I think with that, thank you so much for participating and educators this week and making this episode so special. Thank you so much. Thanks for your time. Have a wonderful day, and see you in the next Educators This Week, guys who are watching online. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone.
everyone.
Thank you all.
Nice talking to you.
Thank you, everyone.
Nice to
Thank you.
Pleasure to be
Good
here.
talk to you all. Yep.